Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for August 10th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me today is Chantele. How you doing, Chantele?
I'm tired as usual. And do you know what? I was really sad yesterday. This is the first time I was like really emotionally connected to all the pleas and everything that was going on in the house. So I'm sad about this. It's going to probably happen this week.
It's we are in an interesting situation. I mean, the move is about to be made here. Today we're going to be talking about everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 23 live feeds. It was day 34 in the house, and big day as we are going to get the veto ceremony. Derek X is the HOH. He has nominated he had nominated Brittany and Sarah Beth for nomination. Brittany then won the veto, which gave Derek X the green light to go ahead with his Christian backdoor plan. So the ceremony was about to happen here today. However, we talked about last night that Hannah had the idea that they should tell Alyssa ahead of time, so that she would have a little bit of a warning. Derek brings up this idea to Brittany early in the morning. She tries to talk him out of it, but unfortunately does not succeed. But I see you, Brittany. You're doing good work.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Brittany, and she's also in the beginning of the day having some talks with the camera, and I was like, her finger was on the pulse for a lot of things that were going on with like the role that she was going to play in this week. I also liked how she was kind of turning her being nominated so many times into a positive, with being like, hey, I've been involved in a lot more conversations than I might have been if I wasn't nominated. And so I was really liking how Brittany was moving yesterday.
Yeah. Well, Derek is going to go ahead and talk with Alyssa. He's also going to talk with Xavier. He had tried to talk to Xavier the night before as well. Sarah Beth is going to get involved. This gets very messy, but the point of this is that Derek is going to talk with Sarah Beth privately for a moment, and he is going to reveal to her that he has heard that the Kings were planning on flipping the vote against her if Big D was on the block. He was told this by Hannah the night before, and she is going to say, well, I know that the Kings were planning on targeting you in the coming weeks. They've told me this information. So they're going to be exchanging that information. And during one of the conversations that Derek has with Alyssa, Sarah Beth is going to be there. This kind of slowly rolls out, but he essentially gets to the point of, I'm kind of thinking about putting Christian up instead of Big D. And, you know, when Brittany won the veto, it kind of changed things, which is the line that he had prepared. And Alyssa's like, that's a mistake. You're making a mistake. Why would you do this?
It's not a mistake. And like, I mean, I know it's really hard because even as a viewer, I like Christian as a person. I wanted to see how well he would do in the game in the sense of like competitions and stuff like that. So I didn't necessarily want him to be taken out, but I know that's the move. And I think personally with Alyssa's strategy and for campaigning for Christian to this day, I think that she kind of missed the mark with it actually being a good move. She kind of was, I felt, saying like, this is dumb. You shouldn't do this. Why would you do this? He was never coming for you. And it's kind of like, no, maybe you should be looking at why they might be doing this, why it's a good move, and maybe pivot from there, because I didn't feel like she was very effective personally to saving Christian.
Yeah, well, she is way behind the eight ball here when it comes to. I mean, she's like, well, you don't even have the votes. I don't understand why you think this is gonna work. And you know, she's going to be playing catch up all day. But she tries to rope in Sarah Beth, like, this is going to be bad for you. Like, you don't, like, the votes aren't going to be there. Sarah Beth, you're going to end up going home because of this. At which point Sarah Beth is like, according to what I've heard, I wouldn't have had the votes if Big D was on the block. What do you mean? Well, have you been talking about flipping the votes against me? Where did you heard that? What are you talking about? Things are just crumbling right in front of Alyssa's eyes here.
Yeah, she has been feeling really safe the last couple of weeks. She's been up and, having a lot of power with the Kings being in the head of household room. And so I think that she didn't realize that other people might be playing the game for themselves around her. And so she's just like, wait, what? How dare you have like an idea that's not exactly what I think that you should do?
Mm-hmm. So Derek X also says, I mean, Alyssa, have you brought my name up since I won the HOH? What do you mean? As I've heard that you may have been saying my name. Well, I'm not gonna lie. Maybe I said your name once you put Sarah Beth up, just because I was like, what's happening? But nothing since then. Sarah Beth. And actually think like Alyssa, not too bad on her feet here. She quickly comes to the conclusion that okay, how does he know this information? It must have. Who could it have come from? I bet it came from Sarah Beth. Sarah Beth knows that we talked about his name after she got nominated, but she doesn't know that we talked about his name post that, because then we started talking about taking her out. So I can deny that we talked about it, post veto, but I'm probably going to have to admit that I talked about it post noms, because he probably already knows that. And so that's what she tries to do here. But of course, none of this matters, because this has already been locked in.
Oh, none of it matters at all. And I think that this was also why the whole day was pretty sad for me, because it's like she's trying so hard to save him, but like also trying to appear like she's not trying so hard to save him. And like all of her covering up of her lies, she seems to be very like good at like no emotions and like not giving any tells, but then people are like, but I know she's lying. And so like it hasn't been really working for her game trying to save Christian, because how she's acting is not really helping them.
Yeah. So Sarah Beth, after Alyssa leaves, is going to ask Derek, like, so how did you know that they were going to try and flip the votes against me? And he's like, well, I've got to like double check with the person I talked to. Like, I don't know if they want it's their name to be revealed or anything like that. But she's later going to talk to him and be like, I assume it was Tiffany and Claire that talked to you, that they would be the ones, because if Christian and Alyssa felt like they had the numbers to flip the votes against me, then they would have had to go to Tiffany and Claire to do that. And so you probably found out from them. And he's like, I cannot confirm nor deny. So she's kind of got that idea. She's going to claim later to the Kings that she does not believe this line from Derek. But she tells Derek that she does believe it, and that seems to be the more of the truth of the situation here, as they have been ratted out.
Ratted out. Another like angle like that Alyssa was kind of taking, which I felt wasn't great as well, is that she kept on saying to Derek X, like, oh, like you would never do this. It's so bad for your game. And I feel like she was like downplaying his intelligence a lot of the day and being like, and to other people being like, it must have been Kylan that came in and incepted this idea, because like he's not smart enough to do this. And so I felt that she's been misreading Derek X a lot. And even when she interacts with them, I feel like there's a little bit of condescension in his capabilities of making a game move decision for himself. And so I thought that for me, like just watching it kind of put me off. So I'm wondering if they had that feeling from her in the house as well.
Well, I don't think she said specifically that she doesn't think he's smart enough to do it on his own. And she is going to talk in a more private setting about like, damn it, like these people are playing better than me. Like I'm just getting outplayed right now. And I think primarily her thought, which is being encouraged by a lot of her allies, is he's not going to be doing this alone. That like somebody must have gotten in his ear. She feels like he was loyal, and then he would not be doing this unless somebody was in his ear trying to make him do this. She ultimately feels like it's Sarah Beth and Kylan who have made this move, because they're the people who had dirt, and she has always felt like Kylan is the person. And she's right. I mean, not like less Sarah Beth, but specifically, yes, Kylan is the one that got in Derek's ear last week and encouraged him on this to go on this path. Like she's correct. She's more correct than the people who are saying no. It's just that he has backing. So I personally did not get the vibe specifically to when she was talking to Derek that she was trying to insult his intelligence or anything. I think specifically she's just looking for like
anything.
I thought I had a read on him why isn't that read correct? My read on Kyland might be right, and she's mostly right in that sense.
I can see it from that way. Just from like just watching, I just was like, wait, give him some credit here. But she's probably was kind of figuring out how it was all working. And from my perspective, it just seemed like she didn't think that it was possible for him to come up with something like this.
Mm-hmm. Well, she's going to go up and talk with Christian, Claire, and X, who have been busy freaking out a little bit about Kristen's like, I'm not feeling good. And they're talking about like, would I have the votes to stay if I go up on the block? I don't know. And Tiffany, by the way, also joined the conversation downstairs with Derek, SB, and Alyssa, but she was mostly trying to maintain neutrality as much as possible in that conversation. Claire upstairs is doing her best to be like, oh, what? No. Oh, crap. What's happening? And playing it off pretty well. And when Alyssa joins them, she says, look, it's not looking good. I was just downstairs, and Derek is like, it looks like he's about to cry, considering he's putting up Christian. He's like, did he say he was going to do it? And he's like, it's definitely possible. Like, oh man, Carlin must have gotten his ear. He must have made this happen. And Christian's just like, I should have taken him out last week. Damn it. I had it. I had the veto. I could have. Oh my God. Oh, what have I done?
I mean, this is the thing is that, Alyssa says, like, for the most part that, oh, this is too early to take this shot, but it's always, it's never going to be the perfect time. Like if it was next week, it's very clear that he wouldn't have that power to be able to do that. And so it sucks that Christian did have the power. And if he was going to make a big move for himself, like that would have been the time to do it if that was something that he was thinking about. So I feel a little bit bad that, he went against his own instincts to like not maybe target Derek last week, because he was everyone was saying like, no, let's do this. Let's do something for the house. And he should have just been playing for himself a little bit more if that's something that he really wanted to do.
Yes. Well, Christian feeling like he should have taken the shot last week is going to bring us to the veto ceremony, where Brittany does use the veto on herself and Christian does go up as the replacement nominee. Backdoored. Post ceremony, the feeds come back to a lot of fallout here, a lot of different conversations happening at once, which I will do my best to consolidate. But a lot of talk between Alyssa, Christian, and Xavier, feeling like we figured it out. Sarah Beth did this, right? Sarah Beth is the one that ratted us out to Derek and said that we were coming for Derek. And she plotted this. She made this happen with Kyland, who wants us out. Like they plotted this whole thing. But how did they find out? How did Sarah Beth know, or how did Derek know that we were going to flip the vote on Sarah Beth? How did she find that out? Well, man, was it because we told Big D that he was good? Did Big D ruin this for us? Could it have been the Queens? Like, this is concerning. It's Kylan. Kylan's just behind it all. And Xavier and SB keep trying to say, like, look, maybe he wouldn't have come up with this on his own, but at the very least, he would not do this without backing, without support. And they're both trying to lead Christian and Alyssa toward the Queens and throw the Queens under the bus. Xavier in particular is really trying to push them to see that the Queens are backing Derek X in this move. And they do go like, oh, backing, who could possibly be backing them? The Queens? Could the Queens be backing them? And they start to go down that path, but they don't really follow it because they're too concerned with their immediate concerns at the time. They're worried about this whole situation.
I mean, of course they're going to be worried about the situation, because I think that they felt pretty comfortable, especially with what they had set up with the royal flush. And, they didn't really think that they were going to be dealing with this until at least next week. And so I can understand them being really nervous, not knowing who they can trust, not knowing who they can actually talk to, who they can count on. And especially since they did put a lot of faith in Derek X, and he put them up. He put up Christian, and so I would definitely be scrambling if I was in their position, being like, "What do we do? Who do we do it with? How do we make this stop?"
Yeah. So a lot of things are happening in this moment, right? Claire and Tiffany are having to sort of ride this line of, we are now going to be voting Christian out, but he's expecting our support. And did we know about this? And who's told Derek about some of these things that he knows? And why has this move happened? And why does he feel comfortable making this move unless he has backing? And will they get caught? There's also Xavier, who is still very frustrated with this move, trying to sort of like lash out at the queens and put some blame on them, and still trying to make it work to potentially keep Christian around if possible, but maybe doing a little bit of damage to his game in the process if he's not careful. You've got Christian, who's, obviously fighting for his life, but even just Alyssa, who is now going to have to figure out where she goes from here. How hard is she going to fight for Christian, and how is she going to fight for Christian? You've got Derek, who has now made this move and has a huge target on his back now, definitely the biggest threat in the house. You've got Hannah trying to continue to play her middle sort of card here, as she still kind of wants Sarah Beth out. She's still concerned about Sarah Beth, feels like Sarah Beth might put her on the block. Sarah Beth is still trying to not get caught of being in, her role involved in all of this stuff. And, they're starting to blame her and Kyland, who's in trouble. You've got the Jokers, who are now going to have to figure out, what do we tell Christian and Alyssa about our votes? What are we going to do with our votes? The house is on fire right now.
The house is definitely on fire. And one thing with Xavier, I'm not sure if this is basically his whole thought process for the rest of the evening, is that he doesn't want to be pushing for one person or the other person. And I actually think that that's a really bad move for his game. Not necessarily that he should be pushing for somebody, but I think that he forgets that someone's going to be staying in the house. And I think he wanted to throw a vote for them instead, just to be like, I want to give a sympathy vote for I guess Christian in this case. But I don't know. I feel like Xavier is not handling this the best, with it being a King's member. And I feel that he might be doing a lot more damage with him playing neutral role in this situation, because someone's going to be staying. I mean, well, you didn't even care if I stayed. And so I think that he's playing it the worst, in my opinion.
Xavier is fighting a losing battle here, trying to keep the Kings together. Sarah Beth and Christian are on the block now, and they will be campaigning against each other. And Xavier basically lets Sarah Beth know that he might have to vote and campaign for Christian to stay, but that doesn't mean that they should split up, because that's what they want. We're not going to split up just because of what they want, right? He points out that that Derek is trying to split us up by putting two of us on the block. It's devious. It's a mastermind plan, but we're not going to fall for it, right? We're going to stick together, even though maybe we might have to vote against each other, here or there. Sarah Beth, please don't be mad at me when I vote to keep Christian.
Exactly. So I'm just kind of okay, it's not really that masterful of a plan. I would think it's pretty standard that someone's going to go after the biggest target in the house, especially if they have three other players working with them to stay in the game. So it's just it seems a little bit obvious, and for him to be I can't believe that they've concocted this plan that's going to make us divide and make us not want to work together. And I'm well, it's pretty obvious that's what they're going to do. You should pick a side and go with it, and just be hey, sorry, Christian, I think I have to go with the house and the numbers here, and be Sarah Beth, I'm riding this with you. Let's take care of it. Mm-hmm. Probably the angle I'd have to take.
Christian goes up to Derek in the bathroom, and he's just so Sarah Beth told you, right, that we were coming for you? She told you. And Derek's just so, yeah, it was Sarah Beth. This, don't you know, this was her plan. This was whole thing. We're each other's shields, dude. She told you. I'm telling you, man, this is what she does. You can't listen to her. And Derek eventually just I'm not going to confirm or deny anything at this point. Basically, like, I don't want to actively lie and claim that Sarah Beth told me this because, I don't want to be blamed for that. But if you want to believe that Sarah Beth told me this, then that's great. Please go ahead and continue to believe so.
Exactly. He's just kind of like, I just want to be absolved of, like, any of this information that's going out, because he stopped really saying who told him information pretty much, like, at this point. It's just like, yeah, somebody told me. I can't say who. I have to ask them if they're okay with me saying who. So yeah, he's having a little bit of trouble, keeping the story straight, but then, like, not outing any of his sources.
So Christian and Alyssa are going to talk a bit as well. He's going to continue. I should have taken him out last week. And Alyssa's just like, it's okay. You can't dwell on the past. It's what's done is done at this point. And, like, there's an implicit amount of, I think, just a small amount of blame probably that is implied in this. I should have taken him out because he suggested it and she shot the idea down. I think they're both aware of that, but neither of them have really acknowledged it. But he says, man, I trusted him. I mean, I didn't trust him and I still kept him. And this is what I tweeted, but, like, that was the problem, Christian, is that you didn't trust him and you didn't make the move. And the problem is not that you didn't make the move. The problem is that because you didn't trust him, didn't spend any time with him, didn't hang out with him. You thought that you could just let Alyssa broker a deal with him, wouldn't have to speak with him basically at all, and that he would then be loyal to you moving forward in this game, and that you could ride it out together for a few more weeks before you eventually did take the shot at him when it was more convenient to you. But that's not how it works. You need to put in the work yourself. If you want somebody to feel good with you and not come after you because you're a threat, then you need to spend time with them, develop a relationship with them. You can't just feel like, yeah, it's fine. He's not going to come for me. And then when he does, be like, damn it, I knew I should have taken the shot. No, you didn't need to take the shot. Taking the shot would have been pretty bad for your game too, because lots of other people still would have been coming for you this week. And maybe you wouldn't have gone this week because maybe Alyssa would have won this competition or Xavier would have won this competition or whatever. And then you would have been safe this week. And maybe your game, yes, I mean, taking the shot at Derek certainly at this point would have been better than not taking the shot at Derek. But the even better move would have just been to get out of bed with Alyssa for more than 5 minutes and hang out with Derek X, the person that is your biggest threat and competition that you're not taking a shot at because you want to work with him for at least a couple more weeks.
Oh my God, exactly. And, people really get vibes and feelings. And even if he doesn't, actively show Derek X that he doesn't trust him, like, people get that vibe, especially from, things that you're saying. If he's not friendly with him on, like, a regular basis, they're building a relationship, Derek X is not going to feel like he's good with you, which he wasn't really good with him. He was convinced to keep him. And that means that I'm sure that Derek X was feeling that to a certain extent. It might not have been glaringly obvious, but, like, if someone doesn't like you, you usually know it deep down anyways.
Yeah, I mean, he keeps, Kylan, he got in his ear. He made this happen. Yes, Kylan did do exactly that. You know why? Because Kylan spent time with Derek X last week and talked to him about strategy and convinced him to go after you. What did you do? You let Alyssa talk to Derek X about, like, we should work together. And then you talk to Derek X like, did you hear what Alyssa said? Cool. Yeah, we're shields. Awesome. Great.
I mean, it's a good idea, but it's kind of junior in the gameplay that's been going on this season. Like, you really have to put in some work if you want your agenda to be pushed. And I think that, he had 2 weeks of safety, or he was the head of household the week before he had safety. Like, he felt pretty confident, pretty good. I think that he didn't realize how much work it actually goes into staying safe in the house.
Especially considering he nominated Hannah with zero, like, input from Derek that week. Like, his actions were terrible, and he didn't even follow up and try, like, actively work on the relationship beyond that just generic deal, right? So again, the move, it's not that you didn't make the move, it's that you didn't develop the relationship that made the move necessary. All right. So Alyssa tells him that she thinks that he should reveal the royal flush to the Jokers. That if they do that, then maybe the Jokers will feel like, okay, the queens are not with us. We need to work. We need to do something in this game to keep Christian. I actually think this is a really good play by Alyssa and Christian. I do think that the Jokers would be a little bit upset here. Now, this is one of those things where it's like, okay, so the royal flush was a thing, but clearly not anymore, considering you're on the block. So it usually doesn't work out in that way, but it should at the very least shake the Jokers into realizing that they have zero agency in this game and that this is an opportunity for them to gain some agency in this game. So how the vote is going to shake out here is that there are 9 votes. Mm-hmm. And you need 5 to stay. Derek X has Claire, Tiffany, Hannah, and Kyland locked in. They are all going to be voting for Christian to go. And Christian has Xavier and Alyssa locked in, which means that the 3 Jokers are ultimately the votes that decide the day here. If they got together and decided that they wanted Christian to stay, then Christian would stay. And Christian and Alyssa realized this, that they don't even need the queens. And so why don't we just throw the queens under the bus and go for the Jokers? Now, that's not the ideal play, because if they throw the queens' votes away for no reason and they can only get 2 of the 3 Jokers, now they're screwed, whereas before they could have been fine. So they want to be careful with this, but it's a play that they could make. And I think ultimately it would be their best play here, because there is reason for the Jokers to make this play. I think it's actually their best call. And, for the Jokers, they, again, have zero agency in this game. If they voted to keep Christian, sorry, Cookout, but neither of these people are in the Cookout. We don't, this is not going against the Cookout. This is you guys making Brittany go up on the block instead of whoever else on your team. This is that we want to keep Christian around because we think it's better for the Cookout overall. Have Christian and Derek X fight it out. That's great for the Cookout. Why are we taking out Christian when, that's not good for the Cookout? Sarah Beth has talked about nominating members of the Cookout. Christian wouldn't do that. Christian is gunning for Derek X now. Christian is gunning for Sarah Beth now. There's plenty of reason for the Cookout to get rid of Christian here, or keep Christian here. Mm-hmm. So it's not a betrayal in that sense, and it puts the Jokers in the power position where now there's zero. If the Jokers kept Christian would of course be grateful to the Jokers, mm-hmm. because they just saved him, and he would absolutely not only be grateful to them, but would be loyal to them, because why wouldn't you be? If you're Christian and Alyssa, you're like, of course I'd go to the final 5 even with the Jokers. Come on. I don't need the queens anymore. Let's go. So this is absolutely, it's honestly a no-brainer for the Jokers. But as we will see, it is a brainer no when it comes to how they're thinking.
Yeah, I mean, definitely if they were propositioning this to the queens, and it was kind of a little bit reverse situation, I think the queens would be able to discuss it and realize oh, this might be our best play. But the Jokers, none of them want to do anything, it seems. Oz's just I just don't want to lie to anybody, and I want to go with the house, and they don't even realize that they are the house. They are deciding what happens in the house. They actually, as you're saying, have all the power, but I don't think that they want it. And Brittany also, she is worried about Christian as a competition beast. And I think the fact that she was pulled into the plan and she kind of knew what was going on and that Christian was up there, I think that she feels a little bit of loyalty to, Derek X. And for the fact that she was part of the backdoor plan. She was part of this. And so I think that it's going to be harder to turn, especially those two at this point. So it's a little bit too late.
Yes. So there, it honestly, it reminds me a lot of when Arlie was on the block in Big Brother Canada too, where it's just essentially the queens plus Derek X convincing the Jokers, nah, it's in your best interest to take out our big threat for us, even though you have control of the votes right now. And you know, the gremlins of the season are like, sure, yeah, you're right. That is the biggest threat. We should definitely do this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember that season as well as you seem to. I'm like, the Gremlins. Who's that? That was Raquel. Anyways, I'm like, who are these people again? But
good TV.
Good. Oh yes,
Sabrina.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of hard though when people haven't had any power and don't really seem to want to steer the game in their direction. They kind of all seem to just want to go with the flow. They don't want to make that many waves. They don't want to lie. They don't want to. They don't have the immediate power that's really obvious, like the head of household. So I don't think that they have any power here. And so I just think that they're the wrong gaming people to be proposing this idea to kind of take control and flip this vote.
Mm-hmm. They say, okay, well, we can also tell Hannah about the royal flush. Maybe that will help get Hannah's vote. We know Hannah wants Sarah Beth out, but then Alyssa's like, but you know what? Derek probably already told her about the royal flush, just like you told me about the butchers. Like, what about the butchers? Could we talk about the butchers? And so they're still brainstorming over here. In the meantime, Xavier is going to be talking with Tiffany. He's still pouting a little bit. He doesn't understand why Kyland is getting to keep both SB and Derek, and I have to lose my strong person. Why doesn't Kyland have to lose his strong person? And you know, Derek needs to go. And Tiffany's like, Derek's not even Kyland's person. He's Hannah's person. He trusts Hannah more than Kyland. Xavier disagrees. And she says, look, even if that was the case, even if Kyland had Derek, you have everyone else. He has nothing. He has Sarah Beth and Derek at best. You have me, Hannah, Claire, Azza. Like, we're all anti-Kyland. And he's like, I don't know. I think that Kyland needs to be the first to go when we hit 6. And she's like, that's what I've been saying. And she says, I think we need to get rid of Sarah Beth. That will help get rid of Kyland's power structure. And Xavier's like, oh, I don't know.
Xavier, just lean into it. It's okay to play this game. I want to see him just like, he's just, how I find him, he's just hymns and haws about things and thinks a lot, and it's great. You know, he's thinking about like his position in the game, but I actually don't know if he has the best read on how to maneuver himself throughout the game. And I'm kind of like, I don't know if he should necessarily be listening to Tiffany, because Tiffany doesn't fully have his best interest in the game, but she is bringing him into stuff, and I think that he needs to kind of recognize that, like, she wants him to be part of whatever she has going on, and he seems very resistant to allowing her to just like at least give him a little guidance in this game.
Yeah, I mean, this is so. Last week, I was pretty critical of Xavier and how passive I felt he was being, even though his position in the game was rising because Kyland's was falling. I felt like it was not work that he had been doing himself, and that he was not in a position to be able to pivot and maneuver if something didn't go his way. And I feel like this week is it immediately validates the arguments that I was making last week, where like the passivity here, he is upset. He's like, why am I losing a person? He's trying to prevent it from happening, but he has no agency in the game. He's been too passive all game long. He's let other people do the work, and he's just, he's not to say he hasn't done work, because he has done work to make himself a lower threat level. He has done work to blend in as much as possible, to build the relationships that he needs to with the Kings and with Tiffany or whoever. But he has not built anything, and he has no power in the game to change anything. And so when the target lands on one of his people, he's just like, what? No, this isn't how the game is supposed to go. I'm going to change this, but he can't, because he hasn't put that work in. And that's exactly why that sort of passive gameplay, it can work out for you if if Alyssa had won this HOH, things would have been fine for Xavier. But she didn't, and he did not have that plan B. He did not have anything to back it up, and even still, he is not working on the relationship with Derek X. Instead, he is upset that Derek X is causing a rift in what he wanted and just wants Derek X out of the way. And Derek X keeps trying to build a bridge to build a relationship with Xavier. And Xavier keeps being like, I don't like you. You're ruining my plans.
Well, but does he actually have a plan other than just like keeping the king safe? Like it's just and keeping the cookout until at least jury or final six, whatever they've actually decided on.
It's just
how.
Right. It's just another, it's one of many players this season who thinks that I can just ride this wave and then gets upset when the wave they're riding changes directions. You're not driving this wave. You're just riding it. Of course you can't control it. If you want to control it, then you should have been controlling it the whole time. That's what Tiffany is doing.
Exactly. And I feel bad in the sense that he doesn't really see what's going on around him. But I'm also just but start noticing and make connections and change the game, change your game here instead of just kind of complaining about it. So I'm kind of come on, Xavier, you can do this, but you got to do something.
Mm-hmm. So Christian and Claire are going to talk for a bit. He wants her vote, of course. Claire says, look, I'm worried that if I vote for you to stay and then you don't stay, Kyland and DX will be coming for me. She's putting Kyland in that spotlight of he's the one that is going to be pushing this the most, and he'll be upset if I don't vote to keep Sarah Beth. And do you have the votes? But she says, I know it's better for my game that you stay, but I can't promise you my vote at this time. You need the jokers essentially. But I can't even so, I can't have you saying that you have my vote. And I don't think that you should, because if you tell the jokers that you have the queen's votes, that's gonna spook the jokers, and they're gonna feel why are the queens with you? If you want to get the jokers' votes, you should you should pitch to them in a way that is you need them and only them, and then that will empower them to want to vote for you. So don't say that you have my vote, because you don't. And it's an interesting line here that she's walking, but I actually really like it. She's in this conversation, I think, very much encouraged Christian not to throw her under the bus, because she's still technically a possibility for a vote, but also does not promise her vote and makes it pretty clear that he might not and probably won't get it. I felt this was very well handled, and all of the talk about Claire and Tiffany after both of their conversations about this is pretty much gonna drop as the focus goes on to the jokers.
And, I think that Tiffany has been playing this whole thing pretty well, but she and Christian having your conversation really, I teared up a little bit. I'm sorry. I did because, he mentions later, I felt like it was a goodbye, that she wasn't able to vote for me, to keep for me. And she hugged me for a long time. And I felt like she was feeling bad about the fact that she wasn't going to be able to give me his vote. And I was really sad about this, because it was oh, you could feel it.
He said Tiffany's hug, it felt more like a goodbye hug, I'm sorry I can't keep you hug, more than it felt like we're gonna fight to stay here hug.
Oh, I'm tearing up now thinking about it. These are the moments I live for. It was pretty it was very sad. I watched it and I was tears coming down my face. And I'm oh, the poor guy. I think he was just out of his element here. The game was moving too fast for the game that he was playing. He was kind of just doing I win comms and have some power. And, Alyssa kind of will steer the strategy portion of it. And there just was so much more game going on around him that I think he just got overtaken, and I felt really sad.
Keep up, everyone.
Keep up, exactly. Was impressed though by Tiffany also saying you should walk around pretty confident and hopefully to shake Sarah Beth. I
Mhm.
thought that was an interesting, strategy for her to suggest to him, because like maybe then she'll start spilling some things that would make her probably look like a target for the next week. But like it was something that could have been useful to maybe get Sarah Beth to be rattled a little bit and maybe make some mistakes.
Yeah. So Tiffany also talks to Christian a little bit later in the day, and says that she says, very similar stance to Claire. I can't really guarantee you my vote, but she does like give him advice. She says like, try not to dump all of your points and like information
Mhm.
out at once, which also, of course, serves her interest, but also is genuinely part of her strategy, as we talked about, or at least I've talked about. That you can see that one of the ways that that Tiffany manages to make her point is that she doesn't have like like a Travis PowerPoint presentation of like, here are my 4 points. Thank you for your time. She starts with a seed, and then she grows it and grows it and grows it. And she doesn't repeat the same things all the time either. She continues to develop them, even to the point of absurdity, as we've found. But even though it gets absurd, it's still it gives her something to talk about, and maintain that level of anti this person or whatever the message is for a length of time, rather than just one point in time, which gives people the chance to like really like consume the idea and then move past it in a way, right? So it's, I think, genuine advice from her, although I don't think the advice fully translates to somebody on the block. And again, this kind of serves her interest, because if he doesn't dump all of his information at once, then there's a chance he might not dump all of the relevant information about her. So that's good for her. Alyssa's going to talk with Big D, and she is going to drop the butcher information on him, not the royal flush information, but the butcher stuff. I'm not sure why she thinks this is really going to matter all that much, but she says, hey, SB was told by Frenchie about an all guys alliance that was made in week 1 called the Butch House or something. And so this is funny because she knows the name, but she's pretending to not fully know the name. And she's also pretending that she heard this from Sarah Beth as opposed to Christian, who actually told her. Which is funny because Sarah Beth, when she told Alyssa about the slaughterhouse, she pretended that Frenchie is the one that told her, as opposed to Kyland, who was the actual person that told her. So when Sarah Beth tells Big D that, when Alyssa tells Big D that Sarah Beth is the one that told her, which is a lie, she also says that Frenchie is the one that told Sarah Beth about the butchers or the Butch House, which is, of course, also a lie. But Alyssa feels like it's a plausible explanation, given that Sarah Beth lied and said that Frenchie told her about the slaughterhouse to begin with. And it's very funny. So the Butch House is named here. Big D goes, was I in an all guys alliance? No. Me and Frenchie were the slaughter, but then we brought everyone in at once. That's it.
I mean, I think that he doesn't matter that he doesn't own up to this. Like, he can blame everything on Frenchie. He could say that it was a lie. Like, I don't know. I just didn't see the value in anybody's strategy with this particular conversation. I feel like they both could have used it better, but I don't know. I'm not really sure how, but it's just kind of
I just enjoyed the irony of how this information was conveyed and the fact that it was called the Butch House and the Slaughter.
Yes, exactly. Did Big D pick up on like, was he surprised that that Frenchie told Sarah Beth?
Well, so to be fair to Alyssa, Big D immediately after this conversation, Ozza comes in. He's like, Sarah Beth's gotta go. And she's like, what do you mean? He's like, next week, she's got to be next. I guess he's mad that she exposed the Butch House. But Oz is like, all right, look, you do you. I'm going for her, Alyssa. Sorry.
I mean, I'd probably go for Alyssa as well, because, well, maybe not. She's kind of on her own at this point, but I don't know what's the best for them. But Alyssa also tries to like corner Xavier later on the day too with this information, and like she calls it out, And he's just like, he said he was like, oh, I'm in another alliance, and he got confused with the lines that she was talking about. So I guess he's kind of like, you know, the Rolodex of like, which lie do I need to tell right now? And then he just didn't say anything when she's like, you know, I know, and he's like, mm-hmm. Like, I'm like,
can I just keep nodding and this will go away? This was the same vibe I got from Derek when Christian was like, Sarah Beth told you she didn't she? Like Derek, like, because it's the sort of thing, like Christian was about to go into the bathroom, and like he had opened the door, he'd taken a step in, and so Derek was like, I think I can get away with not saying anything, but then Christian stops and keeps looking at him, like, didn't she? He's like, are you still about to go? Can I just not say anything here, please? Can you just leave?
Let's go to the bathroom. Thank you.
Sitting on the porcelain throne, Christian.
I was waiting for him to show up. What was it? What's his name? Something of the
Lord
latrine.
Lord. We do have a couple of more punishments as well being doled out. Kyland is going to be dressed up as a donkey, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was a donkey, but I couldn't figure out what that had to do with club sandwiches.
Yes, so it's a donkey with club symbols, like the suit of cards on the outfit. It's a pretty funny one. It's got like a very narrow chef's hat, I guess, on the top of its head, and he has to make club sandwiches every time that the voice comes over and says he has to make club sandwiches.
And they're very labor intensive. Like he's actually like, you know, the bacon, he's like frying the bacon. Like these will probably take like a good half an hour, 45 minutes to make. I don't know how many you have to make, but
it's the bacon that really does it, because that's the thing that takes the most amount of time and effort, and then he's gonna clean up after. Hannah was talking about it later. She's like, she was talking about the Claire who has the other punishment, and they were talking about like who has it worse. And Hannah was like, yeah, but he's got to cook the bacon, and then he has to clean up everything afterwards, or Big D's gonna get mad at him. So.
But at least maybe Big D could have the sandwiches, you know, or like everybody else in the house. It's like not the worst that they can eat them.
So Claire is I don't even know what she's dressed as, like a card, I guess.
Isn't the Queen of Hearts maybe?
Queen of yeah, I mean she's dressed up like but she's also got like a weird hat on. I don't know why cards have hats. But you know, she has to go into wherever the voice tells her to go, and then just spill a bunch of cards, and then pick them up, like my audition for Rob as a podcast video.
I laughed though when Claire did it at least one time when she was in the living room with Xavier, and she just was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry, sir." And like I actually chuckled. I was like, "Okay, they're gonna get their footage for this to be quite humorous on the actual show."
So those are the punishments that are going to continue to go on. So we are then going to get Brittany coming in and talking with Alyssa and Christian. Brittany is going to fully pretend to be on board with Christian and Alyssa. I'm with you guys. I'm voting for you. I definitely voting for you. She also is going to throw Sarah Beth under the bus, saying, "Yeah, Sarah Beth was telling me that I should throw the veto. What do you think that's about?" They're like, "Oh, that confirms it. She's been planning this from the start." Like from the start, like what, she got herself nominated? Is that what you think? But that's Brittany's play, is that she wants to continue to pretend that she is fully on board with all of with keeping Christian, and she's gonna put on her her voice acting. I thought about acting, and then I thought about Sarah Beth, and then I just went right to voice acting. Put on her acting chops and pretend like she's with Christian.
Now, I don't know if this is the best idea for Brittany, just because, like, I think a lot of people don't necessarily feel as though she's playing the game as hard as she actually is. And it's so I think that like with her being very convincing and very like, Christian, we got this, we can get you the numbers, and really supporting them, when she doesn't follow through with that, I just can see Alyssa very easily blaming Brittany for lying because it was just so obvious, and like kind of allowing them to have some faith in her. And then, you know, Alyssa stays and she didn't. So I'm not sure if it was the best to go this hard. Maybe be like, hey, like you most likely have my vote, but we still have to work really hard to get everybody else. There's something like that just to like absolve her if she doesn't go that way. But she is showing that she's better at lying than we were all expecting.
It's a very strange call, especially since, again, like it probably does benefit her game to keep Christian. But I think you have to give the credit to Derek here, because he did such a good job of making Brittany feel included, that Brittany feels like this is her plan. She feels like this is her move, and that she is now orchestrating this blindside. And we'll get to it later, but like she is trying to like direct the whole production here. And it's pretty funny. So Derek and Xavier are going to talk. Derek has wanted to talk to him. First of all, and again, Derek starts this conversation apologizing to Xavier because he feels like he's done Xavier wrong, because Xavier has made Derek feel like he's done him wrong, because he says, look, I'm sorry that I told you about the thing before it happened. I didn't realize you didn't want to know. Because Xavier's like, don't tell me. Like, I don't want it. That puts me in a bad spot. Like, I don't want to be included with you, essentially. He's like, I didn't realize that you wouldn't want to know. I was just trying to, you know, give you a heads up and show you that I trust you. But I guess that you didn't like that. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. And Xavier's like, it's always, you know, we'll get past it. And Derek's like, oh, well, I want to work with you. And I think that we should acknowledge that, you know, you, me, and Kyland are going to basically be, you know, the biggest, you know, guy threats left in the house after this. You know, Big D is here as the fourth guy, but, you know, it's not exactly the same in terms of competition threat ability. So we definitely can't lose another guy at this point. So we should all sort of recognize and acknowledge that fact. And we should, you know, we should not come for each other or anything like that.
So one big difference between me and Xavier is that I want to know everything that's going on in the game, and the fact that he like is telling people like, hey, if it's something that I might not like, don't tell me about it. I'm like, that's so bad, because they'll not tell you, and you'll be blindsided all over the place. It'll probably be blindsiding you out the door, because like you don't want to know what's going on. I don't want to know. And it's like, well, then you're not going to be part of the plan. And so I thought that was just even bad, admitting that he didn't want to know. And it wasn't in like a joking fashion at all. I really want Xavier to play the game that I want him to play. He's set up in a decent spot. Like, he still can salvage it, but I don't think that he could do it with this whole King's twist. He's too loyal and wants to be in a certain seed in a certain way. And he wants to play a certain game, which is not the game that he's playing.
Xavier could so easily get in with Derek. Derek X has been trying so hard because of work that Tiffany has been doing, Hannah has been doing. They've been doing so much work on Derek to make him want to approach Xavier, because he didn't at first, because he had no relationship with him. And so he's been trying, and Xavier keeps pushing him away. And it's frustrating because, like, okay, I get it. You're pushing away because you want him out. And there's a reason for Xavier to want Derek X out. Derek X is really good at competitions. If Derek X is gone, that's one less person to interrupt the cookout plans. And the cookout plans are really good for Xavier right now. If they make it to the final six and Kylan's the first out and Xavier's in the final five, and you got Tiffany and Big D who still want Tiffany gone, whatever, then, like, you know, at that point, there's a good chance he can comp his way to the end anyway and probably win. It's a good spot for him. And Derek X does kind of stand in the way of that. But Derek X is still in the house right now, Xavier, and he's doing things that you don't want him to do. So, you know, why is he doing things you don't want him to do? Because Kyland is close to him. Kyland talks to him, and Kyland convinced him that this is a good idea. So if Derek wants to get close to you so that you can talk to him about different ideas, maybe if you aren't able to take him out, you will be in a position to maybe influence him and hopefully also not be targeted by him because he has no relationship with you. I just feel like that's a decent call here. What's the downside?
I don't know what the downside is. Also, just like keep your enemies closer is even, could be part of like the language of like his thought process here. And it's kind of like, okay, you don't trust necessarily Derek X, whatever, for all the reasons you've said. But like, what if you knew exactly what he was planning on doing so you can counter it in the future? Like, completely not knowing where Derek X stands is just keeps you blind and keeps you surprised by his actions until you're out the door. Like that is what will most likely would happen. Just because they're not really working together. Even though Tiffany's putting in so much work, she had a long conversation where Derek X was like, I want the final four to be me, you, Hannah, and Claire. And then Tiffany's like, oh, but like we should pull in a fifth and should be X. And he was a little bit hesitant. He's like, and the sixth would be Kyland, right? And so that's kind of like he wants to still obviously have Kyland in the picture here. And Tiffany's like, yeah, but he would go out as the sixth or whatever. But like, so Tiffany is bringing him to final five with a person that's hesitant with like having him be part of this group, and he's not even working on that relationship, so he could be like, yes, I want him in final five, absolutely. So it's very surprising how he's choosing to play his game with Derek X.
Yeah, Tiffany is dragging X through this game, kicking and screaming, no, I want to lie low. No, you will come with me.
She's doing that with a lot of people. Like, us as another person, I'm just like you guys are in such a good position and you haven't had to do anything, and you have people that are just like playing for you to get to final six, and you have to do literally nothing, and you're like want to target that person. I mean, I get it, like you're gonna have to get Tiffany out if you want to win, but like she's working so hard to keep you in the game. It's like it's just a little bit frustrating. I'm just like, Tiffany, I know it's for the cause, but I think you might have to drop some of these people and play your own game at some point, because like they're not even grateful. They don't even know. Well, sorry I said that word, but they don't even know what you're doing for them, and they don't even care.
Well, Chris, this is when Christian talks to Tiffany. Azza talks with Derek. She just lets him know she's still fully on board with getting rid of Christian, but she's not going to tell him that. Tiffany talks to Kyland, and she gives him the heads up that, hey, X really wants Derek out. And he wants Derek out because he feels like it's not fair that he's losing Christian and you haven't lost Derek. And so at first I was like, oh, is she playing both Kyland and Xavier off of each other now? I thought she was like fully anti-Kyland. But no, this conversation was for Derek. She was like, you need to convince X that you don't have Derek so that Derek is safe. But the effect of this is that Kyland is now a little bit wary of X, feeling like, oh, why does X feel like he needs to take a shot at me and my people? And I don't even have Derek. Derek really is more loyal to Hannah than he is to me. So this is, potentially the seed of something here. We'll have to keep an eye on.
Definitely we'll keep an eye on it. I think they're saying that it's it's a half a person. It's a half a person. It's not a full person, and that's kind of what's the argument, which is true. He doesn't fully have Kyland, like not fully, because it's like timeshare with Sarah Beth. So, and I think that Kyland would tell Sarah Beth more likely before he tells Derek F about it. Or I'm sorry, X. These names. So yeah, I do think it's maybe even less than 50% timeshare on Kyland here.
Mm-hmm. So Christian is going to make a pitch. He gets the idea talking to Brittany. And so he ends up making a pitch to both Azza and Brittany that, all right, here's the deal. I need you guys to vote for me. This is what I'm going to offer you. If I win HOH next week, it's your HOH. I do whatever you want. I take all the blame for it. Nobody knows that you're the one running my HOH. It's the only thing I ask is that you don't. I'm not going to put up Alyssa, but anybody else, fair game. And that is my offer to you. I was like, oh, that's a good deal. I'll think about it. Afterward, Brittany and Oz are like, interesting that he didn't include X in his list of people that he would not nominate. But it doesn't matter because we're voting him out anyway.
That's true. But you forgot that he sweetened the deal with like you can pick the music and
All the
the
amenities,
basket.
yes.
Like it's your head of household. And I'm just gonna save Alyssa. Like just Alyssa and myself would have to be safe. Or well, obviously
Yeah, and Alyssa is like kind of included in this deal where like they can have some say. Like Alyssa will not put them up on the block, but like they do not get all of the extra amenities like they do with Christian's HOH with all the other stuff.
I mean, I think they should have gone hard with be like, Alyssa will promise you the same thing as well. Like they should really be making every sort of play to get them on to make this vote. Like you're gonna hold back here. Like we know we can bounce these checks, and Alyssa should know that we can bounce these checks. Like promise them everything, and who knows if you're gonna actually win it or not here. Like just keep promising and get them to have that vote. But it was really, I thought it was. They should have included Xavier because Xavier has been working so hard to not seem like he's voting out Sarah Beth, but not voting out Christian. Like he's kind of been back and forth, but he seems to want Christian to believe that he's been loyal and all that stuff. And so I think that it would have been better for him to have included Xavier just because it looks like he's just being really disloyal and he doesn't care about Xavier. And I don't think that sat well with and Derek or all the jokers.
Yes, especially Azza, who has a middle school crush on Xavier.
Absolutely. You didn't include my man?
Alyssa's going to talk with Hannah. She makes her pitch to Hannah saying, SB's targeting you. She pushed so hard last week to go to get you out. And so on and so forth. Hannah eventually says, like, look, I appreciate the pitch, but I can't go against what Derek X wants. I'm not going to do that. Alyssa understands. She's like, I get it. And Alyssa says, Hannah says, like, I think you would probably do the same. Like if Christian had wanted me out last week, you probably would have voted me out, right? And she's like, yeah, you're right. And Hannah gives Alyssa some advice. She says, basically, she says, what did Mike Boogie say to Frank in season 14? That don't let people feel the absence of your presence, or like don't let people get used to you not being around. You're bunked up with Christian way too much. Like we're all hanging out and we're like, where's Christian and Alyssa? And you guys are off, together, not there. And it's not great. Also maybe you shouldn't be campaigning so hard for Christian. Like he's a grown man, he can campaign for himself.
Absolutely. And I'm just wondering, does Alyssa not even think that it's a possibility that Christian's going to go? Because why isn't she kind of planning for how she's going to land if he does end up leaving? Like she needs to fix all these relationships. Everybody's expecting her to campaign for Christian. Like that's her showmans. But it's kind of like, SB is not going to be really that happy with her for the fact that she like actively was pitching for SB to go and didn't care about that relationship. And if SB stays, that's a big problem for Alyssa, even if they were former Kings together. And like, it's expected that she would be, campaigning for Christian. Like she still wanted SB gone at this point, and SB most likely is going to be staying. So she's going to have to pivot very soon.
They do. Hannah does say, like, I have no reason to go after you after this. I think you should make this a clean slate moving forward. Just like Johnny Mac did in season 17 when he was voted out. He was voted out like first jury member, and then he came back in. He said clean slate, made it to final four. And it's just like, again, Hannah, this is what people are so worried about with you. You just keep constantly quoting previous seasons. But Big D or Brittany, Big D, and Oz are going to talk. So Big D had just talked to Christian, and Big D, by the way, immediately was like, "You got my vote, Christian," and said to Hannah, like, "Yeah, we're voting out Sarah Beth. She's the target, right?" And Hannah was like, "What are you talking about? Christian just went on the block. You think he's a pawn?" And he went to Claire, and he was like, "Yeah, we're voting out Christian." Like he's just so all over the place. But he talked to Christian. And Christian was like, I think I might be able to get Azza. I think I've got Azza. She seemed really interested in my pitch. And Big D was like, I don't know. I don't think so. And so he went and told Azza that he said that. And Azza was like, well, that's okay, fine. He's like, what? She doesn't have your vote. So Brittany comes in, and she had just talked to Christian, and because Christian just told her like, "Oh, Big D doesn't think that Oz is going to vote for me." She comes in hot. She's like, "Why did you tell Christian that Oz won't vote for him?" And he's like, "Because she won't." It's like, "No, this." She's like, "No, that is not how this works, Big D." She says, "Look, in order for this to work, this is the plan. Okay, we need to play the yes game." This is Brittany again. She's directing this whole production right now. She says, "Here's what we're going to do. All right, on Wednesday." We're going to pull in X, and we're going to tell him that this deal, this whole deal that Christian offered us, did not include safety for him, only for Alyssa, right? So we're going to pull in X, and we're going to be like, hey, we're looking out for you, X. We're looking out for you. But we have to wait until Wednesday. So, right? So we're going to wait until Wednesday. We're going to do that with X, and then we're going to, the vote's going to go, and then we're going to have X, and then it's going to, that's how it's going to work. We're going to wait until Wednesday. All right. And I was like, all right, this is complicated. And Ozza, literally, this was such a funny moment, guys. I'm telling you. Immediately following this conversation, we have to wait until Wednesday. This is the plan. Ozza goes straight out of the room, grabs Xavier, runs into the storage room. Oh, something I forgot to tell you about the whole plan, because she had already told him about the deal. But she said, something I forgot to tell you about this deal is that he did not mention you in the thing. Okay, so he did not mention that he wanted to protect you in the deal that he made with us. Just so you know. And it's like, Brittany just told you that she had this whole plan. And you're just like, screw Brittany. I need to be the one to tell my middle school crush this.
I know. I was like, man, she really just wants to be like, I'm protecting you, Xavier. So I'm just giving you some information here. You know, like it's like her flirting. This is how she's flirting in the house, but like not flirting by like trying to get him to be like into her for that reason. It's funny.
And so Xavier's like, so what do you think about this deal? And she's like, no. Oh, okay.
I don't know if it was from this conversation, but Ozza, as usual, was just like felt as though, you know, Christian and Alyssa are playing too soon. It's like, it's too early. It's too early. There's still 2 days left. I'm like, he's trying to save himself. And this is like the first time in all the weeks that people have been like working a little bit ahead of time and like trying like from as soon as they're nominated to try to be getting the votes. And so she's just like, oh man, it's too early. Can't they start this on a Wednesday? And I'm like, man, she really hasn't felt the fire in this house, because like for her to not realize why he's trying to campaign from early is like, it's interesting.
Yeah, and Sarah Beth talks about this later with Kylan, that she's like, I really hope I'm not going home. I feel like I feel like I need to be doing more things, because I don't want to leave and feel like I didn't do the things, but I don't know what to do. Like, just hang out with the house more, and like in my one-on-ones, you know, talk to people more. Like on Wednesday, like you don't have to do one-on-ones on Wednesday.
Just talk to people all the time.
Yeah, it's called playing the game. Yeah, you just talk to people. You just be like, hey, can I talk to you? And you talk to them.
And like you kind of are like, okay, sometimes people are whispering because they don't want to see that it seem like they're conspiring. We get it. We don't want to do that. But you can have conversations all the time in the house, and people will just see that you're having a conversation with somebody. And so it's just very funny that nobody seems to want to talk to anybody, but they want to still like stay safe in the house. And it's very interesting how you know the direction of people's game strategy has been going. And I think it's because of the Frenchie week, because he made everybody so scared of like the A word that like I think that they don't believe that they're allowed to talk to anybody without being accused of either being in the showmance or being in an alliance. So maybe that's the fear has gotten to them.
It's this rigid view of like who is allowed to talk to who at certain times, that you're only really allowed to do one-on-one conversations when you're on the block in a specific time, that allows power structures to flourish. Like Tiffany is in a really good spot because she set the tone that she can talk to anybody at any time about game, and everybody else feels restricted to like, well, I can talk to Kylan. and I can talk to my team, but everybody else has to be superficial, and maybe in a group setting, maybe like I can't go too deep with anybody. Like Tiffany talks deep game with every single person, and no, it's not playing too hard. It's allowing her to dominate this house.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand though how she was able to kind of put herself in that position, and then everybody else seems that they can't. Like
they're
it's
just scared
hanging
to.
out.
They just don't do it. All you need to do is do it.
Like just get to know them. Maybe even like not for like game strategy. Just like get to know them, and then you kind of will learn what they like, what they don't like, how they like being talked to, what type of things they might be influenced by. Because if they did a little bit more of this talking, some of their strategizing would be effective. Like, you know, if they knew all the ways to get the jokers on their side, like because they got to know them really well and like what motivates them, they would be doing a lot better, and it wouldn't just be falling on deaf ears. And so I just think it's very interesting that in this social strategy game, nobody wants to socially strategize.
I mean, it's I think just like instinctual that people you know, they find the people they like, and then those are the people that they hang out with and bond with the most. And like even when you're stuck in a house together, it's hard to branch away from that and like go out and like meet new people and like you know, go outside of your habits a little bit. That's why you often see like when that person leaves, like when your closest person leaves, all of a sudden it's like you have a social reset and you're going out and talking to people and your game completely changes. And that's why we sometimes say like, oh, maybe it's better for their game if this person leaves. It's never better to lose an ally, but sometimes the loss allows the person to play better. If that makes sense. When they could have just been playing better from the start without the loss.
Yes, exactly. And this is also like, you know, with the showmances of it all, like the showmances also need to be separate entities in the game, like not campaigning together, not like talking to people together. Like they need to have their own personal relationships with every single person, or else they're just going to be seen as an entity that's separate, and they won't necessarily have like their own personal relationships with Alyssa or own personal relationships with Christian. And so I think that's also a big flaw here in their game.
So Christian is going to talk to Alyssa and Xavier. Alyssa explains the pitch to Xavier first, but then Christian comes in and tells Xavier his pitch about letting the Jokers control his HOH. Xavier has now been told this pitch like 3 times and is having to act like it's the first time he's hearing it. And Christian's like, so what do you I'm proud of it. Do you think, did I do good, Xavier?
This is another poor part. Remember I told at the beginning, like this whole episode, I felt so bad for Christian because he just wants like the approval of like his fellow kings to say that like he made a good game move. And like, I thought of this one myself. I did good, right? And I was like, oh my God, the eagerness of like this plan. Like, I mean, it's okay. It's a decent plan. It's a decent pitch. And like, it could be useful. But just like how much he just wants the approval of Xavier and Alyssa, of course, like, it was just so heartwarming.
All right. Well, Tiffany and Claire are going to talk late in the night here about how the guys keep talking about they're worried the women are going to come together and they're going to have the numbers. And at any point they could just be like, let's get out the guys. And Claire goes, I mean, am I wrong for saying, let's just get out the guys? Like, genuinely, like, let's just get out the guys, except for Derek X. Like, we can't beat them anyway. And Tiffany's like, yeah, sure.
I love it. I love that. I'm like, is this going to be the first time where like, because sometimes there's like, you know, the women have the numbers advantage. And then for whatever reason, like the 3 guys that are left end up being like the final 3. Like they're still able to like move through even with the women having the numbers advantage. So I like this idea. I know people don't want, you know, major alliances dominating seasons. I get that. But I wouldn't mind seeing the women follow through with working together and like maybe seeing that for sure a woman will win this game.
It would certainly be good for Claire's game. So they are then going to talk about. They're a little bit concerned about what the Jokers are up to, because the Jokers are, they're hearing from Christian and Alyssa that they feel like they might be able to pull the Jokers, but the Jokers are telling them that they're not going to vote that way, and they can't be sure which way they're actually going to go. And what if they actually do vote for Christian to stay? They actually do have the numbers to make that happen. And if they do, they need to know, because they need to vote with them, because they can't vote against Christian and Alyssa and then have Christian stay. That would be terrible. So they're kind of concerned about this. But they're not sure where it's going to go. Hannah ends up joining them, and they talk about SB for a little bit. Like, what will SB do? Hannah thinks that Sarah Beth will target her. And Claire's like, you really still think she's going to do that? Like, yes, I think she will, but I don't think she'll put Derek next to me. Before this week, she would have put Derek next to me. Now I think she'll put like Brittany next to me, and I'll have the votes against Brittany. And Claire's like, would you have the votes against Brittany? She's like, yeah. It's I'd have you and Tiff and Kai. And Claire's like, you wouldn't have Kai. Kai's with Sarah Beth. Like, right? Yeah, no, wouldn't have Kai, right? But no, I would have you 1, 2, 3, and then I'd have you wouldn't have the Jokers probably because they'd vote for Brittany, right? And then. I mean, I'm sure I'd have the votes as long as she, she didn't put up one of my votes, but she would put up one of your votes. That's the smart thing to do. Right. Yeah. But it's fine.
Yeah.
She got caught there. She was like, I'll have the votes because of the cookout. But once Claire was getting into the votes, it was like, you can't pretend to have 3 of the cookout votes because all 3 of them should be voting the other way.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. People not noticing, like, oh, I might have exposed myself a little bit here. And I'm wondering if Claire picked up on, her, someone that everybody's saying is so smart and so good at this game, making such a big error with these numbers. I wonder if Claire is going to recognize that and be like, does she have something else going on that she's unaware of?
So Tiffany chimes in. She says they're like, Tiffany, what do you think Sarah Beth will do? Tiffany says, doesn't matter. She's going to throw the HOH. She wants to go back to nobody noticing her. She thought, oh, I'm just sitting here in my hole and nobody will notice me, and then nobody will remember that I'm here. And then she got put up. She was like, what? How did you notice me? How did you see that I was here? I must have done something wrong. She's going to want to crawl back into her hole, which is good for us. She's going to want to throw this HOH.
Do you think that's true? I wasn't sure if I agreed with that or not. I was kind of like, I feel like because she was put in the position, he's going to have some power and not feel like at the mercy of everybody else. But Brittany did feel like she wanted to go and hide back again. So I'm wondering if that's why they are thinking that Sarah Beth is going to do the same. But I just feel like Sarah Beth would want to have some power and seek some revenge. She seems a little bit like someone that would prefer to do that.
I mean, I don't know. It depends on who she feels she wants to seek revenge against, right? It's because if she feels like she's able to win Alyssa and X back over, and she's not going to go after them, there's still no reason for her to go after the Jokers. Who does she go after? She still feels good with Tiffany and Claire. She now feels good with Kylan and Derek X. So she would have to make a move either against the former kings, the queens, or the Jokers. And I don't think she really wants to do any one of those things, but she recognizes that she should be doing something, but she doesn't always want to actually do it. So I don't think she'll actively throw the HOH after she did this week and then got burned so hard. But I think that Tiffany is spot on about her motivation, because I think that she was exactly doing that. She was thinking nobody will see me, and then got nominated. Was like, what the hell? How did I thought I was hiding.
Hannah definitely also was just kind of like, I'm just gonna, just not be targeted for at least the next 2 weeks. I got this. And it's kind of like, oh shoot, people are recognizing that I'm here playing this game and that I'm really smart, and shoot, I'm gonna have to start doing stuff. So Hannah's definitely been playing more. So I wouldn't be surprised if the power came into Sarah Beth's hand that she would make a bigger move. I don't think she would want to hide if she had the power.
Well, in regards to the Jokers, they want to talk to the Jokers and try to figure out where their heads are at. Ideally, they want the Jokers to tell Christian and Alyssa that they're not voting for Christian to stay first, so that they can then be like, we don't have the numbers. Sorry. And Tiffany says this is the right move. Tiffany says America loves Derek. And Claire's like, I don't know. I think they might love Hannah. Or sorry. No. I think they might love Brittany.
Brittany.
And Tiffany's like, no. Claire's like, I don't know. They really liked like Nicole, right? Like spunky, sort of like enthusiastic. Tiffany's like, she's not like Nicole. She's like, oh, it's not exactly like Nicole. She's like, no, listen. America loves Derek. They are cheering for him to succeed this week. He's the underdog. He's taking out the big dogs, and we have to be on the right side of that. All right. Claire's like, I feel like trying to guess what America wants is a losing battle.
She was right though about it.
Yeah.
Like we love Derek X. And they're also saying that Brittany is like Nicole Anthony, but louder. And so I thought that was kind of funny. It was probably because they have a similar accent. Aren't they from the same part of the US?
I don't know.
They sound similar, I guess, sort
of. So I thought this was interesting because I do genuinely think that Tiffany, I mean, she's talked about it before. Like, part of the reason she's with the Cookout is she feels like that's what America wants of her. And I think she genuinely feels like Derek X is also very popular. And I think she genuinely is like, I want to be on the right side of America. I think she wants to, you know, she says, I'm not playing with these people, I'm playing these people. I don't think she's playing for us. I think she's playing us too. I think she wants to make sure that because listen, part of Tiffany's whole thing, part of what makes her so good at the game is that and she's talked about this too to the cameras, she just hates it when people don't like her. And that there's like an issue, and she wants everyone to just like her and be okay. And it's, you know, kind of similar to Frenchie in that way, but she's a lot better at it. And so she checks in with people all the time, and she makes sure that she's good and she's moving and she's making moves. And I think she wants America to like her as well. And I think that she wants to make sure that she is on the right side of what America will want.
I mean, and I think that's like, it's quite a noble, you know, approach. And I can understand what kind of backlash could happen if she did go against the Cookout. Just optically, it just wouldn't look great. And, you know, as much as people be like, she's playing the game, there's going to be millions of people that will be maybe disappointed in her. And I think that disappointment also might be driving her to be keeping this together. Like, she doesn't want to disappoint, you know, a whole race here in this particular situation. And then in terms of like wanting to be side with, you know, America, who America likes, by supporting what Derek X wants. I also think that that's her in her way being like, she'll get maybe some powers. She might be able to then maybe make a move against the Cookout and still have a lot of support from, you know, the audience and the world at large. And so I think that she just wants to have as many people like her and not be disappointed in her actions. So I think that she just wants to do the best that she can in all angles so that people won't dislike her.
Mm-hmm.
Or be mad.
Twitter's
scary. She is on Twitter, right? And so maybe she's seen how people have reacted to certain things that she just wants to completely avoid.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, she's you know, very much ingrained in the fan base. I mean, we saw last season that the people were terrified of the fans because they'd played before and they knew, and that really sort of like put a damper on, you know, a lot of the drama that, you know, could have theoretically have occurred last season. But Tiffany is, you know, she's very much ingrained in the fan base as well, and she knows what kind of vitriol can come your way. And like any sane person, would prefer not to have that. Yeah. So they're also going to just up in the HOH room. You know, Derek joins them, Ozzy joins them throughout the night. They're mostly just like laughing about Big D. And like all of the silly things that he does and says, the fact that he's told like there's 4 people up there and he told them all something different about the vote this week. They're just like, this guy is ridiculous. Like, they have zero respect for his game, and laughing about Big D's game has become a common pastime.
Now, I do wonder, though, because I believe it was Claire in the past has been like, she wants to get him out because she doesn't want to have him be in the final 2 seed, which looks like that's where he's going to end up. Is she still kind of riding that train? Because, like, obviously, she
hasn't mentioned it in a while.
No? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think it would be good to get him out, because I just don't want, I want somebody in the final two, like two people that will go head to head, and like you don't know who the votes is going to be, and it's going to be a split because they've all been playing the game so well. So I'll just be frustrated if he gets dragged all the way to the end and takes up one of those seats. So I hope they go for him soon.
All right. Well, that's pretty much what we had for the night. There was a somewhat funny conversation between Azah and Hannah late at night where Azah was trying to explain why she finds Alyssa so threatening. And she says she feels like Alyssa has mist. And Hannah's like, what's that? You don't know what mist is? Like, what do you mean? The encyclopedia of Big Brother doesn't know what mist is? Yeah, because she doesn't really know the show. She just knows the stats. And so Azah then goes on to explain to Hannah what mist means in the Big Brother vocabulary. And this is funny because I feel like I've seen people talk about mist this season, and I feel like I've heard them explain mist in a similar way, where people are not seemingly not aware of its origins. They're just kind of explaining what mist theoretically means, and not that this is a Brittany Haynes invention. Like season 14, this is Brittany about Dan. It's funny because people used to, like, in the way that people say, like, Brittany Giesling, right? Like that's the thing. People used to, like, that's what people would be like, oh, look at, like, oh, it's Brittany's mist, like it's Dan's mist. But it got so ubiquitous that people were saying this person's mist that it, like, the newer fans to the show, I think, don't actually know the origins. And this is very interesting to me.
So the mist is misting people. Like the actual origin is just like misting it. You don't know where it came from. It just came from somewhere, which I think is really funny. That's what's interesting about a lot of the new fans. It's just kind of like, you know, all these references, but have you done your homework? Like, go back and find out like where this came from. But I do like them still using these like terminologies. At least they've done a little bit of research or homework, or just heard it through the grapevine, but I would like them to have maybe seen that season.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's about what I've got for you guys. Chantele, anything else that you wanted to bring up?
I don't think so. I think we got it all for sure.
All right. Well, another long one for you guys, but there's a lot happening in the house. I expect things to slow down at least a little bit here over the next couple of days as we head toward a likely, pretty straightforward enough eviction here, where Christian will be our final pre-juror. But you can, of course, find us live tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, where we will have our roundtable podcast for Big Brother 23. We'll rate these players once again, update their prices on the stock watch, and talk about the week of Big Brother. There's plenty to talk about as lots of players are shifting around in their position in the game. So make sure you check that out. I will also, of course, be tweeting out the survey. You can find that on my Twitter at Armstrong Taran. If you want to rate the players yourself, and give your own opinion on how well you think they're doing. If you disagreed with anything that I said in this podcast, that is your opportunity to say, "Hey, Taran, you're wrong. I'm rating in this rating." And there are other questions in there as well to give your opinion on the week at large. So check all of that out. You can also find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong, where I am streaming all sorts of fun things, and you can come and ask me questions and all sorts of fun stuff. So check all of that out. Chantele, where can people find you?
I'm everywhere online, but on Instagram, you can find me at ShanFranFran, has all my links. On YouTube, my channel is Reality Realness with 3 S's. And with Sarah from Nerdtainment, we talk about Survivor South Africa on Saturdays at 6 p.m. Eastern. So definitely if people want some more Survivor South Africa content, it's been a really great season and we've been love covering it. So yeah, you can stop by and see it with us.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us here today. And I will see all of you next time.